It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to Sri Lanka and to the World Conference on Youth 2014, the first such conference to be held in Asia. It is indeed an honor. It is indeed an honor for Sri Lanka and the participants of the conference that the President of the United Nations General Assembly, as well as the United Nations Secretary General's Special Envoy on Youth, are both here. Their presence underlines the importance of listening to the addressing youth issues with the direct involvement of young people. Excellencies, dear friends, Sri Lanka proposed to host this World Conference at the UN High-Level Meeting on Youth at the UN General Assembly in July 2011. For reasons such as the increasing challenges faced by the youth. Our own youth comprise about 26% of the population of 20 million people. At the end of the menace of terrorism, hopes among our youth for a secure, better and more progressive Sri Lanka had been renewed. And at a global level, the world has seen the largest generation of youth ever. You would agree that the increasingly large youth population who live in the global south make it impossible to discuss any follow-up to Rio +20 and the post-2015 development agenda without considering their needs and challenges. The youth of today face an enhanced burden. They need to find a living for themselves, as well as increasingly care for an aging population. To ignore this growing trend would entail unmanageable problems for policymakers, national leaders, and the global community alike. There will be around 3 billion young people in the world by 2050. It is imperative that a global strategy is developed to mainstream youth forces and ensure their participation in the existing and future development programs at the national, regional, and global levels. I am confident that this World Conference on Youth will provide an inspirational platform for such deliberations. Excellencies and distinguished youth, the primary responsibility to ensure youth participation in development lies with the state. We as leaders and policymakers need to consider a number of challenges to make this effort meaningful and successful. From a traditional policymaker's perspective, all too often, the question asked, when you raise the issue of youth involvement in any societal processes, do they have the expertise, capacity, knowledge, experience, leadership, and the resources? Youth are seen as dependents or beneficiaries and not as active partners who can also contribute to good outcomes. Leaving aside these dominant perceptions, we have to recognize that today's youth have evolved and need opportunities to participate and contribute to a social progress. We need to readjust our traditional and conventional policy-making structures and institutions to accommodate youth participation. Our thinking has to change. We need to make that leap in policy and thinking when it comes to youth. Dear friends, what are the added values of effective youth participation? Engaging youth and consulting with them results in better policy formulation and implementation, including evaluation that helps fill policy gaps. It is only by engaging them that we will understand their problems. The of youth are extremely sensitive to influence and can be easily misguided. This is the attraction for terrorist groups to recruit youth combatants to their cadres, often ending as cannon fodder or tomatoes, side and scarred generation, if they survive, of course. Sri Lanka faced this phenomenon when challenged by terrorist group, described by the FBI as the most ruthless in the world. In Sri Lanka, former youth combatants were treated as victims of terrorism and not perpetrators, and were all rehabilitated and reintegrated to society for a better future. We strongly believe that it is the society at large that can rehabilitate and reintegrate these misguided youth rather than any state apparatus. Dear friends, Sri Lanka accords special attention to the needs and aspirations of our significant youth population. Having experienced two violent youth insurgencies in 1971 and 1989, we are mindful of the cause that create violent discontent. More importantly, Sri Lanka has recognized that economic and social development was most successful when young people became active stakeholders in policy formation and implementation. We continue to integrate youth into our national policy making and implementation mechanisms through our network of more than 10,000 village-level youth-led organizations and the Sri Lanka Youth Parliament. Youth parliamentarians also consult and engage with policymakers and national parliamentarians, civil society to contribute policy inputs. This has also provided an important opportunity in post-conflict Sri Lanka to foster ideals of peace, tolerance, and harmony among the country's younger generation. Dear friends, through constructive engagement with a wider group of stakeholders, undoubtedly this conference will have a concrete and results-oriented outcome that would contribute to youth development and empowerment. I am confident that the President of the General Assembly will continue to address the needs of youth during his leadership. The Secretary General's Envoy on Youth also has a messenger facilitating UN programs for youth and channeling youth views into the UN and its agencies will also feed the Colombo Declaration to the UN and its agencies. Youth need to be given a sense of purpose to harness their drive and vigor towards meaningful activity. Their innovation and creativity is vital to exploring new knowledge and preparing the world for the future. Enterprising youth have actively contributed in the fields of green energy, ICT, and media. Youth are well endeavored to reap the fruits and also bear the burdens of the successes and mistakes of the present. This has led to recognize, both at the national and international levels, that young people are not simply the recipients of services, but are active stakeholders in shaping the future of their communities. We, as leaders, must, therefore, be committed to providing avenues for the young people to play their rightful roles in crafting the future. I remember how myself as a youth activist fought for the cause I believe in, how myself together with my colleagues advocated and lobbied for youth priorities back then. But today, sitting on the other side of maturity, I see that energy in you. I saw that in the way you dance on stage here. I can see that enthusiasm in your eyes. I can still share your mood and feelings. I wish to encourage all youth to create an inclusive platform to act as catalyst, to strengthen partnership between governments, youth, civil society, and academia that address and advance the cause of young people. Be creative and always try to find innovative approaches to break barriers. Use your energy and potential to keep the seeking out a better world. Innovation and creativity are your own tools for a better world. Having said that, I wish to appeal to all of you, the young people who represent the world, to regard your country as sacred. It cannot be second to any of your interests. Nor can it be sacrificed for any given whatsoever. And again, there may be outside pressure to compromise your love for your country. But all such pressures must be resisted at any cost. Only then can we build a better world for all of us, without destroying the cultures, traditions, customs that we are asked. Before I conclude, I know you all are very active on Twitter. So I would like to invite you, all of you, to join me on Twitter for a discussion this Thursday at 11:30. I wish the deliberations at the World Conference on Youth all success and the distinguished participants a pleasant and memorable stay in Sri Lanka. May you be blessed by the noble triple J.